Hello, Dixie Belle Paint fans. How are you today? It is Melissa from the Top Drawer RVA coming to you live because it is Wednesday, and every Wednesday at 3 p.m. is my scheduled time to sit on the floor and play with some paint and show you what I am up to. So welcome. If you're a new joiner watching me for the first time, drop in the comments below. Let me know where you're watching from. If you're back again, see what I am up to, welcome back. Welcome back. So I have a new project and it's kind of cute. Also, a little bit stinky, but we fixed that with some Boss and she will be good to go. So this is a trash to treasure find. You guys know I love my ugly ducklings, right? You know that I love a ugly duckling. And this little sewing cabinet needed some TLC. So what have I done so far to get her to this point? Well, I cleaned it, and when I was cleaning it, it was dripping in tannins. Like, I mean, it was coming off of the piece and onto the floor, and ew. So I cleaned it very well with White Lightning, and then I came in with my trusty handy dandy Boss. Now, why do I use Boss? Boss is a primer for blocking stains, tannins, and bleed through. It comes in 3 colors, clear, white, and gray. For this purpose, I use gray. Why? Because it was closer than the white. White and gray are kind of interchangeable. I would usually use gray if I was doing pinks or reds or anything bright and colorful, but today we're going to be working on blue. I also, to the top of this piece, did a massive veneer repair, and if you need to see how to fix a big missing strip of veneer, please go to my Facebook page, which is linked in the description above. I did put a short tutorial up there today on my reels on how to fix a very large broken strip of veneer. For that job, I used my Dixie Belle's I use my Dixie Belle's Boss and mud. I try to say mud and Boss at the same time. I used my mud to repair the veneer, and then I sealed it with Boss to make sure it was protected. And that was up here. You can't even tell that that was a damaged area that went straight across the middle of the piece. So now that is repaired and ready to go. I also added a couple Wood U Bend keyholes. You can see those little cutie keyholes right here. This is Wood U Bend keyholes number, let's see, 990, okay? Wood U Bend number 990 for those keyholes. I just happen to have 2 left, and I use them for this project here. So we are ready to go. Clean, mud, Boss, keyholes, and now we're gonna do some painting. So what are we gonna do to this piece? Well, let me show you. I'm gonna aim this up a tiny bit more so you can see this piece. This actually opens up. This is a vintage sewing cabinet. There is no longer any sewing machine in here. I do have to get some wire cutter and remove, there's 2 pieces of wire hanging down, and the top still opens up from the top. I'm gonna be flipping this upside down and drilling it closed. These tables are great for bedside tables because nowadays beds are really tall and these tables are really tall. So they work well together. I'm gonna be painting this interior piece as well, and I'm gonna leave this piece to be able to be open and closed. If somebody wanted to, they could attach a basket here or something small underneath. For my purposes, I'm not adding a shelf or anything. You can come in here and add a shelf, have a little handy dandy storage, but I think I'm just gonna paint it and get it out of here. What's the color choice for this piece? Well, I happen to have a beautiful transfer in my hand. This is the Embroidered Lotus from Dixie Belle. Hello, good afternoon, Kimberly. This is the Embroidered Lotus. Now, what colors would you choose for this transfer? This has 4 image sheets inside of it, and I've used a couple already on a small jewelry box. I'm gonna open this up so you can see the color pattern. Can you see those beautiful blues and greens? Very, very beautiful, neutral, classy looking colors, right? So my thought is, I opened up a bunch of blues on the floor and I'm going to do an ombre effect using my Best Dang brush with chalk mineral paint. My thought is to take these little flourishes that you see right here and actually put them behind where the keyholes, or sorry, the hardware is going to sit. So paint this whole entire table in shades of blue. Add these little embellishments here to the spots where the keyholes are in the middle and the hardware is on the side. And then maybe do these bigger pieces on the sides of the piece. But this is part 2, and today we're doing part 1, which is painting, so let's get to it. I feel like it's been a hot minute since I've seen y'all. So if you're tuning in late, my name is Melissa, owner and artist at Top Drawer RVA, also friendly Dixie Belle brand ambassador, and I like to play with paint. And I feel like I haven't painted in a while. I got this one all prepped up and ready for you, but because of the holiday, I haven't been doing much. So let's see if we can not drop this on my body today. That will be the name of the game today. What can Melissa knock over and get on herself? All right, let's see. My plan is blues. My plan is ombre blending. I've got my magical brush on the floor right here, which is for my ombre blend. This is my best dang brush, that natural and synthetic fiber brush, which makes ombre blending really easy. The fact that I've got this base already covered in gray Boss, this is gonna be easy peasy. I'm gonna finish this table today, and then I can add the transfer after I wait about 24 hours because you want your paint nice and dry. So let's see, what color should we start with? I'm gonna go dark to light, I think. Let's start up here on the corners. I think my original plan was to not paint these little hinges that are up here, right? Because this door opens. But to be honest, I don't think I really care. I think I'm gonna paint right over top of them. So let's do it. I'm gonna bring it in nice and close so you can see what I'm doing. And we're gonna start with the darker color in the corners. For the darker color, for my blues today, I have Bunker Hill. Bunker Hill is a really rich, pretty blue. Remember, I'm gonna be painting the inside of this as well. But for now, I just kind of wanna see how I'm gonna get these blue colors together. We're gonna get them on here, and we're gonna get that first layer down. If you know me, if you're a Top Drawer RVA follower, you know I like to kind of lay down a color pattern. After I lay down that color pattern, it gives me a better eye to see how the blend will look, right? Because, oh goodness, this thing's gonna fall over, I know it. I've got it up on wheels. This is a precarious position, folks. If anything, you should watch today because this cabinet might fall down on me. Let's see. Today we're using all Dixie Belle paint products. Bunker Hill Blue is a gorgeous blue. And I'm gonna actually go dark in these little corners as well. And I'm gonna teach you a little trick. So you can see how these little wood bends are very intricate and detailed, right? You're gonna wanna paint your brush a little bit with some water. And what's gonna happen is you're gonna be able to get that paint in all the little crevices. Getting it in all the crevices so you can get it really good and deep in around those details of the wood bends, okay? So there we go. So we've got our nice dark color to start off with. I think I might even do dark on these little baubles around the legs here. Let's add a little bit more of that Bunker Hill blue down here. All products used today are Dixie Belle Paint products. This is the Dixie Belle Paint page. And you can find them at DixieBellePaint.com or their local retailer. If you go to DixieBellePaint.com, you will be able to find the retailer location button at the top to find the local retailer closest to you and find what you need. Okay, so I'm gonna use a separate brush for each color. This is gonna be my Bunker Hill brush. I'm gonna lay it down. I'm gonna come into another brush. Now, here's the deal where I don't really know how I'm gonna do this. I love Bunker Hill. It looks a little bit bright. Don't worry, it's not going to be this bright when I blend it with the other colors. The other options I have on the floor is to go like quite peacock or to go quite neutral. I'm torn. I also threw in a wild card, which was palmetto, right? When you're looking at all these colors, I mean, they all match, but I'm not gonna put them all on this tiny piece. I'm gonna kind of whittle my way down. I feel like I want a little bit of this palmetto. Let's be brave and throw a tiny bit of the palmetto in. And you know what? I might even keep that same brush. I might even keep that same brush that I used for my Bunker Hill, just to add a touch of that palmetto green. Not a lot, like a baby touch. Because remember, this is just the start of something magical. This is just the very beginning. Let's just add a little bit of that. Okay, I made up my mind. I'm going more greens. I'm not gonna do peacock. I'm gonna go a little bit more greeny blue. Okay, so that means, what other blues do I have on the floor that are greeny blue? Well, that means probably some vintage duck egg. I'm gonna use a different brush for my vintage duck egg. This is old, like hello, it's getting a little chunky in the jar, but vintage duck egg usually has great coverage. Let's see what happens if I add a little bit of that over here. Remember, I'm not blending my colors together yet. I'm just kind of laying down a color pattern. And you're not locked into these color patterns either. Like if you put this all down and go, ew, I hate it. That's a terrible color pattern. You don't have to do it. Paint right over top of it. It's just paint. But how are you gonna know unless you play and discover what color pattern you like, right? So let's take this vintage duck egg and just dump it in over here beside the Bunker Hill. Remembering that all of these colors are gonna be mishmashed together. We're just kind of laying down the plan. I'm in the planning stages. So Bunker Hill, a touch of palmetto, which I actually really like the palmetto. I like that green color, and then some vintage duck egg. Let's put a little bit more vintage duck egg up here at the top. And I just felt that paint hit me in the face. So next time you see me on the camera here, I probably will have a paint mustache, but that's okay. Let's just get this paint on the piece and play with paint. So here's the next dilemma. Do I want to fill this indent in with the darker color and then do very light here, or do I want this whole section to be lighter? Decisions, right? Because I like a gradual ombre blend. So I could take this darker and make it almost like fake drawers, knowing that this is actually just a panel that swings open. Or I could get out the lightest color in my color palette, which is sea glass, which still has that little bit of green to it too. Let's see how much sea glass. See how much lighter that sea glass is? I actually kind of dig it. I like it. Let's do the whole center. Let's go crazy. Let's do this whole center in the sea glass. Once we get down this initial color pattern, I'm going to give it a blast with my heat gun because we're going to be adding these same colors over top. Now, the question of the day would be, why, Melissa? Why are you adding a couple layers of paint? Well, this is an ombre blend, right? This little ombre blend is going to be mishmashed together with my handy dandy Bastang brush. And this is a pokey, strong brush. I'm going to be pulling these colors together. And if I did it on the first coat, you might still see some of that gray underneath. So for now, I'm going to plug in my heat gun and give this a little blast. I actually really like that Bunker Hill. I haven't used that color in a while. A nice bright blue like this. So we're just going to dry the work that we just did, giving ourselves a nice strong base for the blending that is to come with the Bastang brush. Okay, now let's take a tiny break and go back to our transfer, right? Because I'm basing the colors on this piece off of the embroidered lotus transfer. Let's have a little peek here at some of the colors that we see here and here. So when I look at that Bunker Hill, I see that it's quite bright compared to the colors in the transfer. It's quite bright, but don't worry, that Bunker Hill is not going to stay true bright blue. We're going to create an ombre blend with all the colors that we laid down. We laid down vintage duck egg. We did that Bunker Hill. We added a little bit of sea glass and a tiny bit of palmetto. The palmetto is going to accent the green that you see here. I see that nice light color here, which could be closer to the sea glass color. Let's mash it up. Let's apply the second coat, mash it up and see what colors we can get. And that's the whole thing about adding this many tones of blue. You really don't know how the colors are going to blend together until you try it. So let's start with the front. I'm going to concentrate on this door, okay? I'm not going to work on these panels over here because I'm going to work in sections. I'm going to work with this panel, like I'm talking about the door panel, as a start, and then I'll work in sections and over. I actually will blend this little section here because I feel like this part here and this part here is part of this project, but these two sections I will work on them independently. I will add a little touch of that darker blue on my keyholes again. All this is going to do is when I add my lighter colors over top is make this section have some shading to it, some depth and dimension. I'm really a big fan of paint layering. I think that it just adds, I don't know, I like the depth that it gives. Okay, I'm going to go back into my palmetto, very little, same brush, not a lot at all. This is almost going to be like my transition color to help me pull some of this Bunker Hill into the other colors. Okay, so now I'm going to go into my vintage duck egg. I'm going to give it a little spritz of water. Water is a great medium for ombre blending your colors together. And especially if your paint's a little bit thick. And I have a bit of a thicker vintage duck egg sitting here on the floor because it is an older can of paint. I've had it for a little while. So I'm going to add that vintage duck egg. If I miss any of your questions as I go along, please feel free to drop them in the comments below. I'm always happy to help where I can. I might not see them as I'm working, but I will come back in after the video is finished and make sure that I answer every question as I go along. All right, last brush. We're going to just a little dip into that sea glass that you see right in the middle. It looks a lot darker when it dries, the sea glass. And I don't want it to overtake, so I'm gonna actually start with my Best Dang brush on the edges. Okay, so what is the key to using a Best Dang brush? Well, you need paper towels, which I don't see on my floor. Let's see if I can pull this table over close enough to reach my paper towels. It is a mystery. Come on, paper towels. There we go. We got them. We got the paper towels. They were a little further away than I thought. I like to have paper towels on the floor when I do this look because you're going to see me spray my brush a lot. This Best Dang brush is fabulous for ombre blending and it makes my job very easy, but it also holds a lot of paint. So what you're going to see me do is come down here and wipe off that excess amount of paint that I have here on my paper towel or a rag, okay? Now, I'm going to start at the darkest area. Why don't I start in the middle? Because then that's going to pull the lightness out. And I want to actually reverse that. I want the darkness to come in. Does that make sense? Perfect. All right. Hello from Greece. How are you? Hi, Lisa. All right, people, let's do this together. I'm going to hold my table with my left hand because it's precariously balanced on a set of wheels down here. And I don't want it to fall off. I'm going to start with small circular motions. These small circular motions are going to blend my paint together. Remember I told you that that beautiful Bunker Hill is not going to stay so bright, right? It's not going to stay so bright. We're going to lose some of that bright value, which is okay because I don't want it to be so bright that it's like overpowering, and I feel like it's a little overpowering. I like to use circular motions because it gives my piece a little bit of texture and it makes the paint blending process a little bit easier. Can you see the difference between this Bunker Hill and this Bunker Hill now? Can you see how softened those edges become? Would you like to come in even closer? I think majority of the comments I get are people saying, I wish that it was a little bit closer, but I hate to move. I hate to move you all around and jumble you up because I want you to be able to see what I'm doing. Perfect. Okay, so damp brush, Best Dang brush, that's the name of this brush. Small circular motions. Focusing on this drawer front, this faux drawer, right? Because it's not really a drawer, it's a cupboard. And I'm gonna kind of pull it in with my brush. Again, spray it to dampen it and wipe it off. I'm gonna work on this little section up here and see what happens. Can you see how easy ombre blending is with this beautiful Best Dang brush? It is a lifesaver, you guys. If you haven't tried this brush, what are you waiting for? It is so easy to make an ombre blend happen with this brush. I'm not kidding. It is this easy. You're seeing me do it. Real life, real time. The only thing is, you gotta get some big arm muscles because let me tell you, it is a little bit heavy on these hands. A little heavy. Once again, spraying and wiping off my brush. Okay, holding it closer to the bristles gives me more control. If I hold it back here, it's not gonna do as much, right? But when I hold it up here like this, you're gonna get a little bit more control. So far I've blended my Bunker Hill and a bit of that vintage duck egg with a touch of that palmetto. I like this part right here. I like this part right here. Let's continue along and see what we can do with the middle. So now what's gonna happen is we're going to start to blend these darker colors into the center, taking away all of the true value of the color, right? Because we're not keeping the original colors anymore. They're all muddied up, which is great. I think that that's the look I'm going for, is more of an ombre, smoky blend. And now let's work on the center piece. Again, with the circular motions, keeping in the circles is going to allow me to add texture where there really wasn't any before. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is stop and look at what I've achieved. I like the darkness in the corners. I do. I like that Bunker Hill peeking out of the edges, right? I see how it's peeking out of the corners here. What I think I wanna do is add, I just wanna darken up this area a little bit, just a little bit. I'm just gonna use that same brush with that Bunker Hill and just kind of darken up around the keyholes. Does that make sense? It just looked a little light around those keyholes, and I like shadowing, if that makes a difference, because it does for me. I like the way a shadow looks on a piece. Now I like that. Now can you see how that slight shadow darkened up a little bit? This is cute. I like this drawer. I'm happy with this drawer. I like the texture that doing the circular motions has added. I think I might take a tiny bit of that sea glass and drop it in where my keyholes are and give it a gentle rub. Again, just adding darkness, adding lightness where you want it. I like that. I like that a lot, actually. What do we think? Do we like that cloudy blend? Let's pull you back again to kind of get a better view of what's going on over here. Get to see me again and work on this piece. Now, when I look at the camera up here, I can see that this is still looking quite blue. This is still wet. This color is going to change as it dries. This color is going to change entirely. And that is kind of like the beauty of chalk mineral paint, is that it looks different when it's dry. I would also be adding like darker waxes to this piece because I think that I want my corners really dark. And I'll probably add a bit of gold as well, because you all know that I'm a big fan of gold. What do we think? Throw me some hearts, show me some love. Do you think that this is a blend that you could do? I don't think that this is hard. I think that this is something that people struggle with because they don't have the proper tools. This tool is the easiest way that I find to achieve a really nice ombre blend, like a smoky one that looks interesting, that has depth, that doesn't have to be perfect. You might have one corner a little bit darker. I'm into this kind of grunge phase right now. I'm into the pieces that look interesting and deep and dark, and really using a lot of Terra lately. A lot of Terra. Terra paint is another one of Dixie Belle's paint lines that's a lot thicker in value. The inside of Terra paint is dark like a pudding, and I have been using it to create beautiful textured looks. I have a ton of tutorials. If you're looking for Terra tutorials, please check my YouTube. I have a bunch of them on there, and I think that they are a lot of fun to learn from. There is a little fuzzy there. Little fuzzy puppy dog hair on there. Okay, so now that this is done, I think I will repeat this process side to side and top. Let's work on these legs a little bit while we have you here. I'm gonna aim you down a bit so that we can work on some of these legs and we can just ombre blend them together. Like I said before, if I'm missing any questions, if you have any questions and I miss them while I'm chit-chatting away, drop them in the comments below. I'm happy to answer them after I get off the video. Sometimes I do a lot of talking and teaching and not a lot of reading, but that's normal for me. That is normal for me. Hey, Amy. Hi, AJ. Happy holidays to everybody. I missed you last week. I was traveling a little bit for the Christmas holiday. This week we are back to painting and working and teaching tutorials. But it still feels a little weird. Does anybody else feel like they don't know like what day of the week it is or what time it is or what is really going on? Like people are eating cookies for breakfast. Like things are happening that are not the norm. And that's okay. You're allowed. This is the one holiday week where you can wake up and eat whatever you want, whether it be Christmas Day leftovers or Christmas cookies. Somebody's got to eat them. They got to get gone. They do. All right, so I'm starting back with the Bunker Hill, and I'm doing a little bit of that Palmetto. I think I want to do dark legs. Dark legs coming up into that lighter middle. So I'm just going to lay down the initial color pattern, which is that nice Bunker Hill. I should have probably grabbed in the navy. That would have been lovely too, to add a nice kind of darker value. But I could not find that in the navy today. I think I might be out. I'll have to start to do a shopping list, an after Christmas shopping list. And we'll get that. David saying hi to Amy. Hey David, how are you? So I'm gonna add this Bunker Hill. I think I'm gonna add it the whole legs. I think the way that I'm gonna do this is add the dark legs first, get that initial paint layer on there, right? And then add the lighter over top and blend them together. I think that's gonna be the smartest way because I wanna cover the gray boss. And I do want these legs to be dark first. Almost like I think I'll do like maybe even a bit of dry brushing on these legs. Okay, so the legs are on there. I've covered them with paint. Let's get them a little bit dry with my heat gun. And then we're gonna add some other colors to it because I don't want that brightness of that Bunker Hill. I want it to be similar to what I did in the top corners, a little bit lighter. Let's see, Nettie says hello. Hi Nettie, Merry Christmas. Happy holidays to everybody. Hope everybody got what they wanted from Santa. And if you didn't, you have my permission to now go buy yourself a Best Dang brush, because these brushes are the bomb. They are amazing. Let's see. Oh, I have Dixie Belle Paint Company on here. Unless somebody's chatting from Dixie Belle. Could be AJ saying hi to me through Dixie Belle. You never know. You never know. Okay, so now we have Bunker Hill on these legs. Let's lighten them up a little bit. I think I'm going to add Vintage Duck Egg. I don't think I want to add the Sea Glass, which is the lightest color that I did up here. Let's add just a little bit of this Vintage Duck Egg to kind of blend out these legs. They're just looking a little dark to me. I've got my Best Dang brush. And we're going to start to blend some of these colors together. I think once I blend the middle, what I'll do is come back in with my brush and kind of do a bit of more of a dry brush. I just don't want the legs to stick out as much as I see them doing when I add that Bunker Hill. So just by ombre blending these out, super simple. I'm going to go back to my Bunker Hill. And just add that color back at the top and at the base. I kind of have this thing about like the legs being darker on a piece than the rest of it. I don't know, I like that look. I'm gonna give my brush a really good wipe because there is a lot of light blue on there. And now I'm gonna go back and blend. See how quickly you can do some ombre magic with this Best Dang brush? You can still do this on the legs of a piece. This isn't hard to do. And I'm sure I'm missing like the whole right side of what I'm doing down here because I've got the camera facing it. But that's okay. We'll flip it around after. We'll turn it around and see what's going up over there. So now I've got these fun little ombre blended legs with the darker color on the base, which is the Bunker Hill, coming up into like a little bit of that Vintage Duck Egg. It's actually made a really pretty blend. I'm liking that color collection together. That's really pretty. So do you want to do one more side before I let you go? Should we turn it? Dun, dun, dun. You know when I turn this table, it's going to fall on me. Is that why you all stayed with me? So that we can see the table fall on me? Let's see what happens. All right, people, it's happening. It's happening because I can't hold the leg anymore because it's wet. My dolly legs are holding up a giant 6-foot buffet behind my body here because that's next week's project. Oh my gosh, I think I might have done it. Did we do it? Let's move this over. We did it. No children were harmed in the making of this video. We're still here. Let's work on this top bit right here. So we're going to repeat this color pattern. Remember we did Bunker Hill around the edges, which I can see a lot of missing spots on the legs. I had to come in here after the camera's off and like completely redo these legs because Mama missed a lot of paint and she was trying to get the front done. It's the only problem with working on camera is that you try and show the best angles, but you always miss spots. You always do. It's just the name of the game. It's just the way things go. Trying to be the best teacher doesn't mean you do the best painting job on your tiny legs. Okay, we're a little wibbly wobbly, but we can do this. Let's work on this section up here, all right? We have Bunker Hill coming into the beautiful Vintage Duck Egg. I'm missing your comments. I'm sorry I can't see. You like how it's turning out? Thank you, Melissa, thank you. Yeah, you know what? This is a fast little flip. These little sewing tables, this is a freebie. They're fast to paint because they're tiny, and I like them. I feel like when you have a single table, you can kind of get away with a little more color, right? Like people often ask me, oh, how do you sell those single tables? It's not a double, it's not a set. Well, because I think it's painted kind of fun and funky, and people like an accent table. You know, there's something to be said for putting all of the things on a tiny table. It gives you the opportunity to really let your creativity run wild, right? Really let it shine. And I'm going to paint it all the way around. And remember, this is a sewing table at one point. Somebody could have sat at this table and sewn on their sewing machine. There is no sewing machine inside of it now, but that means that this table itself is tall enough that if you wanted to stick a chair underneath it, you probably could. You could probably probably would be able to do that. Okay, so we have Bunker Hill. Remember, we're going to lay out our color pattern. I'm going to use that same brush for a touch of that palmetto because I want to add a bit of green, just a bit of green to this piece. Now I'm going to go back into the vintage duck egg and get that second pattern on there. Even though there's no embellishments on this, there's no keyholes or drawer fronts, we are still going to make these sides fabulous because I might even stick one of those little transfers from the embroidered lotus on here, right? Like, it's kind of fun to decorate the sides on a small table. Last color in our color pattern was the sea glass. Now we're going to give it a blast with the heat gun because we want that initial pattern to be kind of like solid, right? We want it on there before we start mashing it around with that big heavy Bestang brush. All right, we're gonna go back to the original pattern, adding in the blue, covering up my gray boss. A little bit of that palmetto just to soften the edges, and then vintage duck egg, getting a little chunky, using water as your medium to keep your paint movable. And then of course the middle color was that gorgeous sea glass. And now we're going to go, a hot mess today. Like, can I ever paint and not get paint all over me? I don't think it's possible. I really don't. I have the ability to make a mess wherever I go. All right, Bestang brush, dampened, wiped off on my paper towel. I'm going to use each panel. Remember, I'm skipping this panel. I'll do this panel after I get this done to match the front. I'm going to move in small circular motions, starting with the darkest, moving into the lighter color. I like that small circular motion to really create texture, maybe where there wasn't any texture before, and to get the perfect ombre blend. You can go up and down. I mean, there's no rules in painting. If you really wanted to, you can go that way. I just tend to really like that small circular motion when I paint with this brush. Now, we're going to start to mash these colors together. We're going to change that Bunker Hill. It's going to move now from being such a bright blue to a nice blended color. I'm going to stop, wipe off my brush, and continue to blend. How simple can that ombre blend be? I mean, hello. So simple. It's not going to get any easier than that, people. If you don't have a Bestang brush, you need to get one. Merry Christmas to you. Buy it. It makes your blending life so much easier. I also like the texture. I like creating texture when there is none. Texture on a piece of furniture makes it interesting to me. Add a little of that light up here, I think. Nice, nice, happy with that. Let's get right up in this corner. Now, that is pretty. Look at that pretty blend. So pretty. Hey, Pam, how are you? Thanks for watching today. Okay, so now we've done the front. We started on the legs. We've worked on the side. Let's hold up our transfer again to make sure we're staying on course, right? Because this is based on the embroidered lotus color palette. Loving that, loving that. So what you're not seeing is when I added the palmetto to the Bunker Hill blue, it toned the blue down into a bluish green color, okay? A bluish green color. Because if you were to look at this up close, you're going to see a blue-green color. If I would have kept it like that naked Bunker Hill blue, it would be too blue. But adding that touch of that palmetto, which is that gorgeous green, just makes it come together. So now you can see, look at that. And look at all the options now to stick transfers all over this cute little table. So cute. Let's work on this little section over here, which is kind of like the arm of the piece. So I'm not gonna add a ton more paint. Let's see if I can shift my body right in front of this. I'm not gonna add a ton more paint because this is a really small section. I just need to pull these sections together, right? Because now we have this painted and this painted, but not this. But if I were to have jumped in and painted this first, it's gonna get all mashed up because I'm working and I make a mess. So I'm gonna spray my brush, wipe off my brush. Let's see, do I put clear coat before I add the transfer? Crystal is asking. It's up to you, Crystal. The only time I would make sure to add a clear coat before adding a transfer is if I was using Terra. When you use Terra clay paint, you need to seal your Terra before you put a transfer on it. Clay paint is porous, your transfer won't stick. Seal it first, not with wax, but with Terra Tough or a clear coat of your liking, and then you can add your transfer. For this piece, this is chalk mineral paint. I don't need to seal this at all before I come in here and add a transfer, but if I do seal it, I'm kind of giving myself that extra insurance that my transfer might just go on a little bit easier. Transfers stick well to chalk mineral paint and to silk mineral paint. Just Terra is the tricky one. You need to make sure you seal it first and then you can move along. But no, you can put transfers on naked chalk mineral paint. That's A-okay. All right, so now this piece is easily blended. I lightened up that leg too much. See, remember I told you these paints grab a lot of, or this brush grabs a lot of paint. So by the end of all of this blending, I really have muddied my brush up, but that's okay. It's just a matter of blending sections. I like to work in kind of blending sections. This piece is gonna be accented in gold for sure. I love blue and gold. Blue and silver is beautiful as well, but I'm a gold girl. So I'm gonna be doing transfer, gold. I might even get out a stencil and add like a beautiful kind of billowy faded stencil with gilding wax after I add my transfer. The world is my oyster. I can paint whatever I like, however I like it. Let's see, Pam says she's playing with Terra and she's not sure what she's gonna do. And you know, that happens often when you start with a new product, like a new medium that you might not have tried before. And Terra is a fairly new paint, right? Terra's only been around for a couple months, since the summer. What I suggest is grabbing a small practice piece that you really don't care if you're painting it exactly the way that you want, right? Maybe a board, maybe a small end table. Terra is a layering paint, and you're going to find, Pam, that when you layer Terra, it's best to do a layer, let it get dry, come back in and add another layer. If you start moving Terra around too much before it's dry, you're gonna muddy your paint and then you're gonna be mad because you're gonna lose the vibrancy of the color, if that makes sense. So I like to use Terra paint as layers, adding it on quite thick, letting it get dry, and then coming back to peel back those layers, because you can actually wet distress Terra and it pulls back beautifully. Might I suggest going to my YouTube channel and checking out some of my tutorials. The last 2 long form videos that I've posted have both been about Terra paint, and they are a lot of fun. I think you're gonna have a great time. I think you're gonna have a lot of fun with your Terra. You have my permission to go play with your paint, because that's what it's about. Playing with new things and deciding what you like and having fun. There's no rules in painting. Just do what you like to do. And when you get a free table like this, go ahead and paint it blue and stick transfers all over it. Go ahead and paint it pink and add some stripes. You can do whatever you like on a cute little freebie table. And when it's small like this, it's not overwhelming when you are adding all of the things, right? It's those big buffets when you come in and paint it hot pink that you might have a harder time selling a hot pink buffet. But a hot pink table, go for it. Do it. I love my little tables. They keep me creatively open. They let you experiment and have some fun where you might not have had fun before. It is just a lot of fun. Let's see, Pam says she loves my tutorials. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I work pretty hard to try and teach everybody the most that I can about Dixie Belle paint products. I think that everybody can do this. This is not hard. This is just a matter of playing and practicing and having fun. And the proper tools really are essential for, getting that fun little blend. You can do a lot with your paint when you have the right tools. And a Best Dang brush is amazing for this ombre blend. You're gonna be able to get a really fun look quickly. People are gonna think you worked a lot harder than you really did. Trust me, trust me. Let's see. The billowing stencil. Okay, so Nettie's asking about the stencil. I was saying I might like billow out some gilding wax or like faded. Sometimes they call it shadow stenciling or like a faded stencil. I'm not a neat and tidy kind of a girl. Can you tell? When I use stencils, if you were to give me a stencil and say, put this stencil perfectly on the side of your piece and paint very carefully and get it perfect, that would make me pull my hair out. I am much better at putting a stencil down and very gently adding gilding wax to get a faded, soft effect. I think that it's a lot easier to make it look like in a faded, soft effect than it is to make it perfect. So to be honest, doing it the way that I like with that faded, soft effect, it's just my cheater way of doing something less hard. Nettie, if you like, you know what? I will make you a tutorial. When I do it, I will do it on the sides of this piece just because you asked. And I will be happy to tag you so that you can see exactly what I'm talking about. Some people call them ghost stencils, faded stencils. There's a lot of words for it, but all it is basically an imperfect way of adding a stencil to your piece, giving yourself the ability to kind of be a little bit more free with it. You're not so locked into like a perfect stencil, right? Okay, this part of my cutie little table is done. All I did was keep adding that Bunker Hill with a little bit of vintage duck egg to fade out the legs. They're still darker than the front of this piece. Let's see if I can turn it around again without it falling. Dun, dun, dun. Goodness, goodness. Watch out, heat gun, you're in my way. I just want to go back to the beginning here at the front so you can see what we actually achieved together. So if you were looking to try this look, I can give you a quick once over of all the colors that we used on today's project. All right, so today's project was painted in Boss in gray. That was my beginning part of this project in order to cover heavy duty stains and cover any tannins that might happen in bleed through while you are painting. Boss in gray was applied before this video started. I also had mud on the top of this piece to fix some veneer issues. There was some missing veneer on the top and I needed to repair that veneer before I came in here and started my paint. So I did my beautiful mud on the top to cover those veneer issues. Then I came in and we added Bunker Hill blue, a little bit of palmetto, we added vintage duck egg, and then I came into sea glass. All of these blues were blended together, right? The blending together is the ticket for this project. The tool that I'm using to do the blending is called my Best Dang brush, which is this brush you see in my hand. It is my favorite tool for achieving a faded out, kind of cloudy paint, if that makes sense. It gives you the ability to ombre blend your paint together in a cloudy feature without having to be too perfect. And that, my friends, is what it's all about, because nothing is perfect. Everything is kind of fun and exciting, and using this brush just helps me achieve that look very easily. All the products used today are from Dixie Belle Paint. You can find them at dixiebellepaint.com, where as well you can find your local retailer. There should be one close to you. Support your small businesses, please, when you can. If you have a local retailer near you, they should have everything that I used today on hand, especially if they are an elite retailer. They will have everything you need to get this project done. But stay tuned. I will be using this beautiful embroidered lotus transfer over top of this tiny table when the time comes, but I do need to let it get dry. That means probably tomorrow. And I should have her finished lickety split. And don't forget, Nettie, I'm going to come on here and show you how to make that faded gilding wax stencil. It's very easy, and it provides you with a fun way to use a stencil in a shadowy way. Just adding that dimension, adding that depth and that interest to your piece is what makes every single piece a one of a kind. It makes it all about you. So I hope you had fun today hanging out with me, playing with paint. My name is Melissa. I am a brand ambassador here at dixiebellepaint.com, and I am always around to help. If you have questions, send me a message.